Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you find this message. Just want to talk a little bit about the things that we see in society. And there's a lot of deception going on. And of course, the whole talk won't be about deception. I'm just ramble on a little bit, get on my soapbox somewhat, and just talk about some things. And I read somewhere years ago that it's easier to deceive people than to convince them that they've been deceived. And deception is a great business, especially when it comes to the American black. We've been deceived into believing that God hates us. We've been deceived into believing we're Hamites. And we've been deceived by people who have stolen our true identity. We've also been deceived into thinking we should always remain at the bottom of the economic totem pole until we go and meet our maker on the other side. We've also been deceived into thinking one political party is more friendly to us than the other. And that's a whole mix up right now. I mean, when did the election day turn into a whole month of early voting? And now, excuse me, now election day has turned into election week. But we think one political party is more friendly to us. We've been deceived into thinking that the only place we can receive a valuable education is through the public school system. Now, if one were to do some research with a true open mind, what they would find would truly amaze them. If a person wanted to know something, they would see how deep the deception has gone when it comes to those of us who were born in this country of a certain heritage, not necessarily skin color, because many others have the same skin color. The people who told us that God hated us were the same people who enslaved our ancestors. The people who told us we were Hamites were the same people who enslaved us. The people who stole our identity were the same people who enslaved us. The same people who told us black skin was cursed are the exact same people who enslaved us. The same people who gave us the public education system were the same people who enslaved us. The same people we vote for today are the same people who enslaved us. The same people who started the NAACP and the National Urban League are the same people who enslaved us. The same people who kept us out of unions are the same people who enslaved us. The same people who financed the civil rights movement, the feminist movement, and the Black Lives Matter movement are the same people who enslaved us. Now, how can I say these things? It's because I've studied and I've studied and I've studied. And just so you know, I will not be sharing my sources anymore. I tried that approach for years. And all the people who kept asking me for more information did was to try and find a way to discredit each source that I would offer them. And like a dummy, each time they asked for another source, I would provide it because I was naive. So I decided that I will no longer share my sources, because when a person goes out and actually finds the information on their own, they tend to have a better appreciation for the information because it actually required effort on their part. I was just asked actually about a week ago to provide a source for some information I shared. I didn't give it. And sadly, more than any other people on earth, as black people in America, we love our illusions and we don't want them shattered. Many of us would rather hold on to our beliefs even when the truth is looking us right in the face, even when it's obvious, and even if the belief is detrimental to our faith, to our family, to our health, our economics, and even our overall well-being. I mean, why do people engage in destructive habits that actually work against their own best interests and the interests of their families? Now, you and I both know only the individual can answer that. If we do the exact same thing that our parents did, who did the exact same thing their parents did, but we do it in a more modern way, guess what our kids and their kids are going to do? Then guess what our offspring will be complaining about a few years down the road? The exact same things we are complaining about right now, which the exact same things our parents complained about. I was looking at a video of Dr. Claude Anderson the other day, and Claude Anderson said something that I've been trying to get across for years, but I don't have a whole bunch of credentials next to my name. So maybe because it came from Claude Anderson, who's Dr. Claude Anderson, maybe it will resonate with you this time. Because we have it bad in the black community. If you don't have a title next to your name, you are considered less than. But Dr. Claude Anderson said, I think he was on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne, and I don't even know when the video was recorded. It just showed up in my feed on YouTube. But he was saying we need to get away from all this marching and protesting stuff. He said that stuff has proved to be an utter failure for us as a people. And I'm saying, well, thank you, Dr. Anderson. Maybe the people will listen now because you said it. And you have doctor next to your name. And so we're still wanting to march. We're still wanting to protest. But I thought that fight was won in the 60s. I thought that's what Dr. King and the civil rights movement was all about. But here we are right today, still complaining about all the same things from back then. So if we don't change our mentality, our kids, our grandkids, and our great-grandkids are going to be complaining and crying and moaning about the same things we're complaining, crying, and moaning about. Because we still haven't changed our mentality. Stop talking about what other races are doing. Just stop it. What are we going to do to fix our issues? We got to stop running to these tricksters and politicians and all these other folks, because that process has been an utter failure for us. The American Psychology Association actually did a survey on October 7th of this year. Just a little, well, it hasn't been a month yet because I actually pre-recorded my videos. But the American Psychology Association did a survey last month, October 7th. And 68% of the people polled said they were stressed about the election. And 71% of those with chronic health conditions said they were doing the worst out of everybody. Now, why are we allowing politicians and politics to divide us? Why are we stressed out about the election? Do you realize there are a lot of people in this country that still do well regardless of who's in the White House? I heard it say years ago that stop worrying about who's in the White House and worry about what's happening in your house. So why are we letting these people divide us? As long as we're divided, they win. And I know the division is there because I don't toe the black monolithic political party line. And because of that, I get ostracized by people I consider friends. Now, apparently, The feeling is not mutual, but it's okay for them to share their beliefs with me. But on the flip side, they don't want me to share my beliefs with them. Sometimes I'll send out my videos to a list of people on my email list. I don't send out every video that I create. I pick and choose, and I'll just send some out from time to time. Because my thoughts are, if you find value in the information I share, you're going to subscribe to the channel. You're going to click the notification button, so every time a new video comes out, you'll get the notification letting you know it's there. And I'm the type of person, I do my best to try and remember important dates like birthdays and anniversaries and things like that, kids' birthdays. And, you know, sometimes I'll sit around the house or I'll come across a picture of something from high school or maybe college or something like that. And, you know, it's a memory that I had with a friend, and, you know, I'll start laughing and I'll email them and, hey, you know, I saw this picture and I was thinking about it and I just started laughing about something you said that day. Or, you know, I'll send out a birthday greeting or something like that. And so if I send out a personalized response like that and I don't get a response, that tells me they're not even opening my emails. And so that says a lot to me. I have some people that send me emails daily. And you know what? I open every last one of them. I may not get to all of them on the day they were sent, but I do open them. And just to let the person know I reviewed the content, I will respond to them on one or two of those emails. And you know what? I don't always agree with some of the content that is shared with me. And I will voice my opposition sometimes. And whoever I voice my opposition to, they don't take offense to it. They don't take offense to my disagreement. They will voice their opinion, and we actually handle it like adults. I don't look at the information and start crying and search for my pacifier to put in my mouth because someone shared info with me that I don't agree with. I'm not a baby. Adults talk things out. Adults realize we shouldn't have to agree on everything to still remain close to one another. In 2008, I remember this. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but I received an email from someone asking me about Barack Obama. They had come across some disturbing information and wanted to know my thoughts. And I let her know, you know, some of the things I had come across, and later on I would send her a few articles and videos. And after about the third or fourth piece of information I sent, she responded to me in a very angry manner, telling me she wished I would stop sending her stuff. I never contacted her. She contacted me and asked me for my thoughts and what I had come across. And so when I shared it, it shattered her illusion. And so I didn't initiate the conversation originally. And she asked me to help her understand some things. But when it shattered her illusion, all of a sudden she didn't want to hear it. But that's okay with me. It's kind of hard to shatter my illusions. If you tell me something that I wasn't aware of and I don't agree with it, I'm not going to get upset with you. What I'm going to do when we finish our conversation, if I have pad and pencil, I'll write it down. If I have my phone in my hand, I'll put a note in my phone. And if I don't have phone or pen on me, I will make a mental note that I need to research this information for myself. I'm not going to get upset because it came out something different than I already had in my mind, because that's what people do that want to learn. And I'm always in a state of wanting to learn. Now, many people are not mentally strong enough to stand against family members and friends when it comes to politics. So they just fall in line like elementary school kids walking down the hall to the restroom. So as adults, we keep falling in line with the groupthink mentality. And you ever wonder why they teach you how to walk on the line in elementary school in the first place? It's not what they teach us. Do your own research on that. Now, I can disagree with a good friend about our taste in women, what our favorite foods are, what style of clothing we like the best, favorite sports teams, career choices, and even religion. And we will remain friends. I grew up in a church, and I had a good friend who could not stand anything to do with the church. And we had no problem with each other. We were friends. We weren't going to let differences like that interfere with our friendship. But if that same person finds out emphasis on I, and anybody else could be I that thinks differently when it comes to politics, they start to minimize our interaction from that point forward. Now, why is our voting preference more important than our relationship? The only time I talk politics is on my YouTube channel, certain social media platforms, and if an organization actually invites me in to speak. Other than that, I stay away from the topic. I refuse to engage at family gatherings when they start talking politics. I refuse to engage at meetings I might attend when they start talking politics. I refuse to engage at fun-filled events with friends or classmates if they start talking politics. My awareness is much greater than politics, but I know many times I will be excluded because that's how small-minded people do things. I had a conversation some years ago with someone, and they came to an awareness, and they started to have a conservative leaning mentality. And this person has a really good friend who got upset and said if they had been aware that they thought like that, they would have never become friends. And I asked the question, I said, do you value the friendship more than politics? And the response I got was yes. I said, well, one thing you need to do, I said, you need to see if your friend feels the same way. One thing I've learned is that when people want to leave you, let them go. When my dad was healthy, we would always talk politics, money, and women. And guess what? We didn't agree on neither one of them. And we both knew we didn't agree on those areas, but that did not stop me from loving him or him from loving me. That didn't cause me to stop visiting him and my mother. And then when he got sick, I was at the house several times a week, in spite of dealing with my own health issues. And he ended up passing a little over a year ago. And guess what? My health still hasn't fully recovered. Most people don't even realize that, but I don't run around talking about woe is me. So, it just gonna take some time. And so the guy that was coming to my house to help me during my recovery told me that I was actually slowing down my healing and even going backwards. But he said he would never tell me not to do for my parents. Now, When I was going over visiting my dad during that time of all his illness, guess what never came up? Politics. I listened to him tell me the stories he had told me for years. Only this time it was just in a weakened state. I heard those stories practically every time I saw him, but I still listened. There are people all over the society who have broken ties with family members, friends, church members, and co-workers because of their different political views. I read an article the other day, and I actually sent this article out to a few people because in the subject area, I put in there, I said, this has got to be the most common sense thing I have read in quite some time. But in that article, a poll was conducted, and the poll said 61% of those with a strong liberal mindset believe someone should be fired from their job if they support Republicans. I mean, really? Really? But I'm not surprised because that's exactly what crybabies do. I ran track before I ever played football growing up. My mom ran track, my aunt ran track. They were both All-Americans in high school and college. And so it would stand to reason that me and my sister at the time would be running track. And so when you run track, well, I don't know how it is today, but when you ran track when I was growing up, only the first 3 finishers received awards. And like I said, that's probably changed today. So when I played football, we had an awards banquet. The very first year I played football, we had an awards banquet. That was something new to me as well. And I knew I was not the best player on the team. It was my first year playing. So I did not expect to receive a trophy because the track, this running track had already conditioned me that you get awards only when you're the best. We hadn't won a Little League Super Bowl that year. So to me, that was award enough. But everyone on the team received a trophy. But crybabies want everybody, other people punished when they don't get their way. Why do we allow total strangers to come between us? These strangers sow discord among us and our loved ones, but we don't have access to them and their families and friends. Let me tell you something. When my wife and I donate to a person or a cause, we don't ask if they're Republican or Democrat because it's about helping. It's not about politics. Just think about the billions of dollars that are sent to political campaigns every election cycle. How many hungry people could be fed? How many homeless shelters could be built? How many diapers can you buy for mothers that need it for their babies, or formula for those that don't breastfeed? How much food or medicine could you buy for those older folks that are on a fixed income and deliver it to them? See, we'll donate people to people who are running for political office at the national level, whose income is going to be close to $200,000 a year, who don't even know we exist. Now, I think the average income in this country is roughly 44,000 a year, 51,000, something like that. So these people will be making 4 to 5 times what the average American is bringing home, and we're donating money to their campaigns. Does that even make common sense to you? I mean, really, does that make common sense? You're going to take your money that you're struggling to earn right now, and you're going to donate it to somebody who's going to make almost 4 to 5 times more than you, who's going to ignore you, who don't know you exist, and then they're going to pass legislation that's actually going to be detrimental to you. Does that even make sense? Now, I have never, ever given money to a political campaign, and I don't plan on starting. I don't care what level you're running at. I ain't giving you no money. I don't care if you're a friend. I ain't donating to your campaign. Because, see, we've gotten so far out of knowing what politicians and politics is supposed to be about that we just do everything all wrong now. So, don't ask me for no money for your campaign. On more than one occasion, I've actually taken my personal food and given it to someone on the street. Now, I'm saying this to make a point, not to tell you what I did, because I believe what Matthew 6:1 says. And Matthew 6:1 says, when you do for people, you don't scream it from the rooftops, seeking your reward from people on the street. So I'm just making a point. I'm not telling you this for no applause or a pat on the back or none of that. But I have never, ever asked someone on the street what political party they belong to. We have gotten away from being human as a society. Social media has actually made it real easy for people to try and intimidate people to assert their one-upsmanship. Sadly, those who try to intimidate or assert themselves as intellectuals are the most ignorant ones out of everybody. The intimidation tactic is actually a cover for their limited awareness. So they try to show themselves as superior. As my cousin told someone one day, and my cousin and I communicate all the time, and he's back here in Houston now, but when I would have to go and work in the Fort Worth, Dallas area, and I would always get together. I would go to his house and spend time with he and his family. And then we go over to Grapevine Mall, I believe, and to the big game room like we were two big old kids as grown men. But, you know, we just did that. But he told somebody one day, some people are educated and some people are informed. And you need to figure out which one you are not. He wasn't talking to me, he was talking to somebody else. And for me, when it comes to male relationships in my life, most of the men I talk to on a regular basis are old enough to be my father. I have one guy who's younger than me, whom I talk to on a weekly basis, almost daily. But the American system of politics has divided most of us like never before. I thought I had seen it all up until this year's election. But people on both sides of the fence have truly amazed me this year. I have never seen so many one-track-minded people in my life. Technology has allowed too much outside of us to influence us. Many blacks have told me Trump is racist. And when I respond, well, so is Biden. The response has always been, well, they both are. I then remind them, but you didn't vote for Trump, so it doesn't matter if he's racist or not. But the pride aspect won't allow them to admit they made a mistake. So they will do everything in their power to defend their position. I mean, that's them. But we better figure out how to once again unify our families, our friends, our church members, and our co-workers. Because the political game is destroying us as a society. And it's actually leading us into full-blown tyranny while we are distracted among political lines. As citizens, we're playing checkers, and politicians are playing chess. And if we keep breaking off relationships and friendships, pretty soon we're going to be isolated, and not one politician will come to our aid when there's a need. People without great discernment tend to follow the crowd. Over in Ephesians 5 and 6, it talks about if somebody has something to say to you, it says, don't let them deceive you with empty talk or meaningless words or empty words. And, I'm just paraphrasing. That depends on which version of the Bible you read. I do know a few little pieces of scripture off the top of my head, but, I'm not trying to be a biblical scholar like that where I have to call chapter and verse every time I reference a scripture. That's why I paraphrase. But many of us in society will rather believe the lying words of a politician faster than the words of someone they've known all their life. Now, I'm the type of person, if I give you my word, that's it. I'm not going to break it. My dad always told me, no matter what, you keep your word. And so many people in society make false promises because they have no intention of ever doing what they said they'll do. Their word's no good. So if their word's no good, they are no good. How do you treat people who think differently politically than you? And I remember reading something years ago. I read a lot. And it said if everyone is thinking alike, then nobody is thinking at all. And when I was in school, I would engage my teachers if I didn't agree with what was being taught. And the reason I can engage my teachers is because about 2 or 3 blocks down the street from the high school I attended was a public library. And if I got on a city bus, which I had to do sometime, I would ride down to another part and I would visit their library if I found out they had that book I needed in stock. So it was kind of hard for me to agree with some of the things some of my teachers were telling me when I was going to the library, checking out 3 and 4 books at a time, and it's contradicting the information I'm being taught by the teacher. And so I would engage my teachers if I didn't agree with what was being taught. And one teacher actually told me I would be no better than a D student in college because I would not go along with the plan and I wouldn't do always what I was told to do. And for me, I don't know about you, I can't speak for anybody else. It's kind of difficult for me to go along with something that contradicts common sense. And that mentality given to me by my teacher, and I graduated high school, how long has it been? It's been a little bit over 30 years. I graduated high school. And what my teacher was teaching 30 years ago is the exact same thing we're seeing in society today. People who just go along to get along. I saw that teacher in a store one day, and I walked right by like I didn't even know her. I don't tolerate people who don't want me to think for myself. Now, if I saw her in a distress type situation, I would help her because I'm still human. And I do have the humanity aspect within me. Now, I might let her suffer a little while, but I would help her. Now, let me ask a question. If something were to happen to you, or someone in your family, or someone you love, who would come to your rescue? Would it be any of your political misrepresentatives? Or would it be the person you have detached yourself from because that person never left you? You left them. You see, most black folks with a liberal/democratic lean who claim to be open-minded and accepting of all viewpoints are the most closed-minded people we'll ever meet on this planet. And they will leave you hanging. But the person who leans conservative, not necessarily Republican, will immediately come to assist a person in need, regardless of political affiliation. Now, be honest with yourself. You can lie to me, you can lie to others, but one thing you can never do is lie to yourself. Where do you fall on that issue? Will you leave someone hanging because they have a different political viewpoint? I mean, I've experienced it. I'm okay with it. But think about someone who may have needed you at a certain time, but you weren't available. Was your reason for not being there and available for that person a legitimate reason? One of the things I do every day is read books. And my wife and I actually started our reading program together where we'll shut everything off again, and we'll set a timer and we'll read. Now, we're not reading the same books, but both of us are reading something that's working on our attitude, our mentality in a positive slant. But we shut everything off. We set the time when we read at the same time. And we actually missed yesterday. And we were both trying to ask each other, did we read yesterday? And she said, I don't think so. I said, well, I don't even remember. And the reason neither one of us could really remember is because even though we set a timer to read, we still both read throughout the day. Although we may not read at the same time, we may not read sitting across from each other. And there was one point where I would read Dale Carnegie's book every year, once a year, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because I wanted to learn how to relate with all people. And I heard Miles Monroe say, you need to know about many things so you can be more relatable. Because if you can't relate, nobody's going to allow you into space. And I have many of John Maxwell's books, if not all of them. Now, I don't have a foreign language one, but these are just a couple of authors that I continue to read. And why am I telling you that? Why is that important? The reason it's important is because if you have not learned to work with people and you have not learned how to lead from wherever you are, you're just like a kite on a windy day. You go in whatever direction the wind is blowing. And in this case, the wind is the news that controls your thought process, or whatever your friends who think like you tell you to think. See, by not putting good stuff in your mind, it's really real easy to be influenced by the crowd. But when you start feeding your mind different material that is positive, your antenna goes up when something doesn't harmonize with your mentality. So many people have actually grown comfortable in their limited awareness. To me, it's really a sad thing that many people in society have taken a position that they have nothing left to learn. So basically, they're already mentally dead. And the coroner's just waiting for the body to catch up to the mind. There's no such thing as standing still. You're moving forward or you're moving backwards. If you're not learning anything new daily, you're going backwards because others are passing you by mentally. If you don't believe me, stand on a corner at a four-way intersection or even a two-way intersection. Heck, you can even stand at a stop sign on a one-way street. And the longer you stand there, the more vehicles are going to pass you by. Kids running or riding bicycles are going to pass you by. People walking their dogs will pass you by. So while you're trying to stand still, the world and everything around you is still moving. I mean, you can't stand still. You are not standing still. You're going one or two directions, forwards or backwards. Even if you decide you're going to put a hammock up in the backyard, and lay there all day and you decide to do nothing. The sun is going to start the beginning of the day on one side of you or in front of you, depending on how your house is facing. And if you decide you're going to just lay there all day, do nothing, fall asleep, take your nap, when you wake up, when the sun is setting, it's going to be setting on the other side of you, or it's going to be setting behind you. So everything is moving. And if we keep subjecting ourselves to negative on a daily basis, is it any wonder why many people have trouble sleeping at night? And why people develop illnesses? You heard me say earlier, stress will kill you. And that's just not me saying that. Many of your health professionals tell you stress will kill you. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. Stress will kill you. Now, let me point something out. I have 7 social media profiles that are active. I think I have 11 or 12 total, something like that. I didn't actually count them, but I have some. I get reminded periodically throughout the week that, you receive a message on this or whatever. I get to it whenever, but it's not that important to me. This past week, I actually decided not to even log into those 7 accounts at all. And actually, it's been a refreshing experience to me. Social media is a drug. And many people have to get their daily fix. I don't have any social media apps on my telephone. I tried one for about 30 minutes one day, and that was about 4 years ago. And every time a notification came, the phone would make a noise. So I uninstalled it. I like peace. I like tranquility. And a lot of times technology can disrupt that peace. Our minds are the original computers. The computers we use for whatever we use for, the computer in your hand with your phone, your tablets, your laptops, your desktops, they're only going to be able to disperse the information that the computer companies place in them. And what does that mean? Our minds are only going to disperse the information we put in them. Stop allowing ill-informed politicians, ill-informed friends, ill-informed family members, and news pundits who are fed the same script from the same source, regardless of what channel you're watching, that feeds you and control and influence your thinking. You're going to have to do some homework, and you're going to have to come from under the illusion or the matrix, as many of us know the movie. For us as black folks, well, not us personally, but our ancestors, they were released from the physical shackles, but somehow we've managed to walk around with shackles on our minds. And if we want to be mentally free, we're going to have to control our mind.